When the grid fails, you've got 60 minutes to act, or your house turns against you. Not a day, not overnight, 1 hour. That's the window between control and chaos. After that, your food is spoiling, your water pressure is dropping, your security's compromised, and your neighbors, they're starting to knock, or worse, watch. Over 70% of Americans have no backup power. FEMA says only 39% have 3 days' worth of supplies. And the Department of Energy reports the U.S. suffers over 147 major blackouts per year, lasting 8 to 72 hours on average. Most people fail in hour 1. Why? Because they're still staring at their phone, hoping for a signal that's already gone. Meanwhile, systems are collapsing around them, quietly, fatally. This isn't about panic, it's about precision. The next few minutes are your checklist. Food, water, air, movement, defense, control, fast, silent, and in the right order. You've got one shot. Let's make sure you take it. 5. Neutralize your electrical footprint before it fights back. The moment the grid drops, every plugged-in device in your home becomes a liability. Not a convenience, not a luxury, a threat. And if you don't cut the right cords, literally and mentally, within the first hour, you risk igniting fires, frying appliances, or losing hundreds, even thousands of dollars in sensitive electronics. This isn't paranoia, it's physics. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, once grid power destabilizes, it doesn't fade gently. It surges, it spikes. Voltage irregularities can slam through your wiring at 240 volts when your toaster only expects 120. And the worst part? These surges often happen when the grid comes back online. And by then, it's too late to unplug anything. You've just lost your fridge, your gaming rig, your router, and your peace of mind. So what do? Fast and quietly, within the first 60 minutes. You isolate your system. You go dark on purpose. Every major appliance, every flat screen, every PC, modem, washer, dryer, coffee maker, pull them. Unplug them before the chaos fries them. If you have a main surge protector on your circuit breaker, flip it off. Don't know if you have one? That's a problem you solve today, not when the lights flicker. House fires during power outages aren't just folklore, they're documented. In California's rolling blackouts during wildfire season, over 150 electrical fires were reported in 2022 alone. Many were traced back to appliances turning on automatically when power surged back unexpectedly. Next, understand this. Phantom loads are real. Your electronics still suck power even when off. It's called standby mode, and it can represent 5 or 10% of your monthly bill under normal conditions. But in a blackout scenario, these dormant devices become decoys. They trip surge protectors, they mask real power usage, and they confuse backup systems like solar inverters or battery banks. You want your stored energy going to your critical loads, LED lights, your medical devices, your comms, not to a DVD player blinking in standby from 2006. But here's the real kicker. If you're running any kind of solar, generator, or battery system, your life depends on load prioritization. And if you haven't trained yourself to know which breakers or circuits power your essential systems, you'll waste precious battery runtime. You need to build a cold start protocol today. That means you know how to operate independently from the grid. You can isolate your panel if backfeeding is unsafe, and you can reroute limited power to a fridge, radio, and one lighting circuit. This is how smart preppers operate. Not everything gets power, only what keeps you alive. Think of your home as a lighthouse in the storm, but don't let it look like one. No one should see your lights come back on. That means blackout curtains, red light discipline, and zero glow from windows. A house that lights up after 12 hours of silence becomes a magnet for desperate neighbors. And worse. So act now. Pull the plugs. Flip the breakers. Think surgical, not sentimental. The grid isn't your friend right now. It's unstable. It's erratic. And until it's proven safe, you isolate. Because in the first hour of a blackout, your electricity is a live wire with no leash. 4. Control your indoor air supply before it turns toxic or still. Most people don't realize that the moment the power dies, air stops moving. quietly, invisibly, and fatally. You've lived your entire life under the soft hum of a ventilation system. Forced air furnaces, HVACs, bathroom fans, fridge compressors, stove hoods. All of them gone in a blackout. The air in your house becomes stagnant. Humidity climbs. Mold spores multiply. Carbon dioxide builds. And if you're burning anything for heat, cooking, or light, candles, propane, kerosene, you're playing with CO levels that can silently kill you in under 20 minutes. The CDC reports that over 430 people die annually in the U.S. from carbon monoxide poisoning, not during major disasters, but in everyday situations. Now imagine that number when millions are trying to survive inside sealed homes during a multi-day outage. That's why you must act within the first 60 minutes to take control of your air, before it betrays you. This isn't about fresh breezes and open windows, it's about air safety. First, every American household should have, right now, a battery-operated carbon monoxide detector. Not the wall plug kind. That's useless when the grid is gone. You want one that runs for days on AAs, and ideally has a loud alarm and a display. If you don't have one, that's not just a mistake, it's a hazard waiting to trigger in the dark. Propane heaters, camping stoves, and candles all emit carbon monoxide when used in enclosed spaces. It's odorless, it's colorless, and you'll never see it coming. During the 2021 Texas freeze, over 1,400 people were treated for CO poisoning. Dozens died, not from lack of heat, but from trying to stay warm without ventilation. Second, understand this. Humidity is your enemy. When the HVAC stops, your house turns into a sealed jar. Breathing, sweating, boiling water, all of it raises humidity. And when humidity crosses 60%, bacteria, mold, and viruses go into overdrive. Studies show that dust mites thrive at 70% humidity. And mold spores? They can bloom in under 24 hours on drywall, clothes, or pantry items. That smell you remember from post-hurricane basements in Florida? That's the stench of rot-meeting moisture in the still air of a dead grid. Now here's where it gets tactical. Cross-ventilation. Pick 2 windows, preferably on opposite sides of your shelter zone. Crack them open just an inch and rig up a small battery-powered fan, $20 on Amazon, to create directional airflow. Use duct tape and cardboard if needed to funnel air. This isn't about comfort. It's about exchanging air slowly, silently, and consistently. You don't want to swing doors wide and advertise your activity. Every sound outside, every silhouette in a window can attract attention, so do it low and controlled. If you have attic vents, use them. Hot air rises. Let it escape before your space becomes a greenhouse. If you're using any fuel indoors, you need ventilation, period. A 1 lb propane bottle might seem harmless, but in a 200 square foot room with no fresh air, it can elevate CO levels to fatal within hours. That's not prepper fiction. That's OSHA math. And one last thing, don't burn scented candles. Why? They release soot and volatile compounds that degrade indoor air quality. Use beeswax or unscented paraffin. It's cleaner, quieter, and less likely to cause respiratory distress in enclosed spaces. If you or a family member has asthma or COPD, you need to be even more paranoid. Keep N95s handy, not just for smoke or viruses, but for indoor pollutants. Air is life. But in a blackout, it doesn't care about your comfort. It can quietly kill you with mold, moisture, carbon monoxide, or suffocation. That's why in the first hour, while everyone else is chasing flashlights, you quietly take control of every cubic foot of breath in your house. Because if you don't, you might just wake up dizzy, disoriented, or not at all. 3. Shut down sewage backflow before it erupts into your home. I need you to hear this with full clarity. In a total blackout, your toilet can become a biological bomb, and it won't give you a warning before it blows. You flush it once, maybe twice, thinking everything's fine, but what you don't see is what's happening below your house, where city sewer lines rely on electrically powered pumps and treatment stations to move waste. When those systems fail, and they will in a widespread power outage, the entire network starts to back up. Gravity takes over, and if your home is at a lower elevation than the surrounding grid, congratulations. You're now the drain pipe for the entire block. Let me paint the picture. During Hurricane Sandy in 2012, sewage overflows impacted over 11 billion gallons of contaminated water across New York and New Jersey. Apartment buildings flooded with raw waste from neighbors who kept flushing. Entire basements filled with human filth. This isn't an edge case scenario. According to the EPA, more than 23,000 sewage overflows occur annually in the U.S., and a significant number are triggered by power disruptions. The grid doesn't just keep your lights on, it keeps everyone's waste moving away from your home. Without it, every flush is a gamble. So in the first 60 minutes of a blackout, after securing food, water, heat, and power safety, you must turn your attention to your waste system. That means stop flushing immediately. Plug every basement-level drain. If you have a utility sink, washer drain, or floor drain, seal it tight. A $3 drain plug from any hardware store can be the difference between a clean basement and a Category 3 biohazard. If you don't have one, jam rags into the drains and stack heavy buckets or weights on top. You're buying time, not perfection. Next, set up an emergency toilet system. If you think you can hold it for a few days, you're wrong. And if you have kids, seniors, or anyone with medical needs, this becomes non-negotiable. The classic setup is a 5-gallon bucket lined with a double garbage bag and layered with cat litter, sawdust, or even shredded newspaper. This dry flush system suppresses odors and allows you to rotate waste without contaminating your living space. Keep bleach or chlorine granules on hand to disinfect after each use. In a multi-day grid-down scenario, proper waste handling becomes a survival priority, not just for comfort, but for health. In fact, during the 2010 Haiti earthquake, more people died from post-disaster cholera outbreaks than from the quake itself. Let that sink in. The absence of clean sanitation in a crisis will turn your home into a petri dish. Diarrheal disease, skin infections, and food contamination all spike when toilets overflow and hygiene collapses. One study from the WHO found that inadequate sanitation can increase mortality rates by up to 50% in emergency shelters. You're not just avoiding gross smells here. You're fighting to keep your family from getting sick while hospitals are offline and ERs are overrun. And if you have a septic system, you're not immune. If it requires a pump to move effluent uphill to a drain field and the power's out, you're on borrowed time. 1 or 2 flushes may work, but after that, the tank fills, backs up, and starts pushing sewage toward your home. Your only warning might be gurgling sounds, foul odors, or water bubbling up from drains. By then, it's already too late to stop it. So here's the checklist. Stop flushing. Plug low drains. Build an emergency. Toilet. Store hygiene supplies. Baby wipes, gloves, bleach, garbage bags. And keep a sanitation station separate from your food prep area. In the first hour of a blackout, you're not just managing comfort. You're battling the biology of 21st century living without its plumbing privileges. The grid took your flush with it, and if you don't act fast and quietly, the next thing it flushes is you. Here comes the next one. This is where the blackout stops being about you and starts being about everyone else. Number 2, shut down movement, yours and theirs, before you expose yourself to chaos. The first 60 minutes of a blackout are not a time to go see what's happening. They are not a window for driving around the block, checking your phone under streetlights, or running to the store. That first hour is when the streets mutate, quietly at first, from suburban normalcy into high-stakes unpredictability. The kind of unpredictability that turns sidewalks into threats and parking lots into traps. You need to shut down movement, both yours and others, before that shift happens. Here's why. The moment the grid goes dark, traffic control vanishes. Stoplights don't blink. Surveillance cameras go blind. And the average driver, suddenly stripped of direction, starts making irrational decisions. During the 2003 Northeast blackout, New York City gridlocked within 12 minutes. Not because of panic, but because 800,000 people tried to just drive home with no functioning traffic system. And what followed? Over 3,000 traffic accidents in less than 6 hours. Dozens of pedestrian injuries. EMTs delayed. Fire crews stuck behind stalled intersections. You think you're just running to the gas station? Think again. You're entering a mobile free-for-all with no lights, no law, and no backup. Worse, gas pumps don't work without power. So even if you make it out, You're burning limited fuel in a system where refueling might be days away. In Puerto Rico, after Hurricane Maria, it wasn't food people fought over, it was gasoline. Lines stretched for miles with wait times hitting 18 hours. Carjacking soared. In multiple states, FEMA and National Guard units had to escort fuel tankers. That's what motion invites. Attention, desperation, risk. And if you're moving, you're vulnerable. Now look at it from the other side. Every step you take outside your property line sends a signal. Footprints in the snow, a flashlight beam across a fence, the slam of a car door. In the daylight, it seems innocent. But when the grid is down, every sound is amplified. The silence becomes suspicious. In rural America, that kind of movement gets noticed. In urban zones, it gets followed. In either case, it makes you a source of news, of supplies, or of shelter. That's not a good thing. And here's the hidden danger most people never consider: forced displacement. If you're in an apartment or community complex, blackouts often trigger fire alarms, emergency lockdowns, or even evacuations. Automated protocols that force you into the open whether you like it or not. That's why in the first hour, you need to prepare to stay put. You lock doors. You set up internal checkpoints. You place motion sensors, battery-powered, $15 on Amazon, or rigged tripwires with bells across entryways. That's not paranoia. That's early warning. Because if someone's walking your driveway at 2 a.m. in a blackout, you don't want to be surprised. And let's not ignore the darker truth. Home invasions spike during power outages. Police data from California's PG&E shutoffs shows a 42% rise in break-ins during planned blackouts. Criminals know what you haven't prepared for, and they're already moving. That's why your perimeter should be sealed before the sun sets. Park cars to block driveways, chain your gates, use signs, real or fake, to make your home look defended. No trespassing. Beware of dog. Security camera in use, even if there isn't one. Optics matter. People go for soft targets. Don't be one. Inside the home, lock down internal movement too. Tape glow-in-the-dark markers on walls and floors so you don't trip in the dark. Pre-stage flashlights in every room. Designate a single walking path between sleeping areas and bathrooms or supplies. Why? Because injuries in the dark are real, and one broken ankle on day one puts your entire survival plan at risk. In the 2021 Texas blackout, ERs saw hundreds of indoor falls from people trying to navigate dark houses without proper lighting. Some of them didn't even have working phones to call for help. So, in your first 60 minutes, resist the urge to move. Resist the curiosity. The world outside your window is about to change, and not for the better. Freeze the perimeter. Establish silence. Make your home a sealed capsule, not a revolving door. The second you step out into the blackout world without a plan, you become part of someone else's story. And trust me, you want to stay the narrator, not the victim. Here it is. The moment everything either stays in your control or starts spiraling out for good. Number 1. Establish a command post before your house turns into a confusion trap. Most Americans assume their home is naturally organized. They know where the flashlights are, sort of. Batteries are in that drawer, maybe? First aid? Top shelf, right? But the truth is, in a total blackout, your house becomes a trap of forgotten priorities, scattered gear, and confusion under stress. And in that chaos, people waste time. They waste calories. They argue. They get hurt. And they lose control. That's why your most critical action in the first 60 minutes, once you've secured your food, water, power, waste, and security, is this: build your command post. I don't mean some military bunker fantasy. I mean a designated zone. One room, one corner, one table, where everything critical converges. Lights, maps, radios, tools, first aid, plans, your family's safe spot. You want it staged with intention, not panic. You want to move toward it in the dark without thinking, because when the grid is down, mental friction becomes fatal. The more you have to remember, the more you'll forget. Cognitive load spikes in emergencies. It's proven. A 2020 study from the American Psychological Association found that during power outages, people experience a 31% decline in short-term memory performance due to stress and sensory disorientation. And that was just a simulated outage. So here's what your command post needs. Bare minimum. A working flashlight, not your phone. An actual flashlight with backup batteries. A printed emergency checklist. Not on a tablet, not in your notes app. Paper. Laminated if you're smart. A solar, crank, or battery-powered radio. Set to no AA or your local emergency broadcast station. A paper map of your local area with key locations marked, nearest hospital, police station, known neighbor allies, notepads and pens. You'll need to track food usage, power times, water consumption, injuries, or contact attempts. Don't trust memory. Write it down. First aid supplies with trauma basics accessible. Tourniquet, pressure bandages, gloves, antiseptic. Now here's the piece almost nobody thinks of. Documentation. Keep photocopies of ID, insurance, prescriptions, and medical info here. If you need to evacuate or prove who you are when systems come back online, you won't be at the mercy of a dead phone or burned-out hard drive. But a command post is more than supplies. It's psychological ground zero. It's where you make decisions. It's where you gather your people. That's why you need seating, not on the floor. Chairs. You want comfort, posture, control. People think better sitting upright than huddled on tile. Your brain associates tables with planning. Leverage that. And establish rules now. No one leaves the house without checking in at the post. No flashlight leaves without permission. No resource gets opened without tracking. Yes, it sounds rigid. That's the point. Structure outlives chaos. And here's where the long game begins. This post becomes your reset point. When emotions run high, when someone's panicking, when your spouse can't find the Tylenol or your kid's flashlight dies, this is where they go. This is where clarity lives. You teach your family, right now, that if they're scared, they don't scatter, they report. During Katrina, countless lives were saved by families that designated a meeting spot inside the home and trained everyone to return there at regular intervals. Those who didn't spent hours searching dark hallways for each other during levee breaches and storm surges. Final tip? Add a clock. Battery-powered. Because in a blackout, time warps. People lose track. Fights start over missed meals. Panic grows when you can't tell how long the water's been out or how long someone's been gone. A simple wall clock reintroduces rhythm. It grounds the moment. And that's what a command post is really about. Not just supplies, but command. You don't want your house to be a ship adrift in the blackout sea. You want it to have a captain. And that captain needs a bridge. So you've made it. You've crossed into the part of preparedness most people never reach. Not because they can't, but because they won't slow down long enough to plan. But you did. Now you have a post. A brain inside the blackout. A place where action starts and fear ends.